Devanshu, in B4 HANA version, what is the change log? How many days do we need to keep the change log? Is it still 30 days or it's more?
It still depends on the client to client. There is no specific days. Some clients they do 14 days, some clients they do 30 days, some clients 60 days. So that best practice follows. No change there for BW for HANA. Yeah, so sorry, we went over time a little bit. So this is now the post Q&A session. So if you have any questions, let's try to answer them. And if time permits, we'll try to answer the ones. Actually, let me start with the ones I could not answer. We'll start with that. And then you can ask your ad hoc questions. And tomorrow we will touch upon the CDS views. Today I planned, but I could not. So we'll continue that tomorrow, CDS views. Okay, so, and sorry I could not give you a break. It was an intense session today, so we couldn't take a break, so it went on. But yeah, I mean, I'll try to give breaks starting tomorrow. Okay, so let's try to answer Suman's question. How to activate the standard BI content in BW for HANA? Does it automatically create the data source or do we need to replicate them first in S4 HANA? Can you please show an example? Yeah, so the data source and the replication of the data source is basically mandatory. So that does not change. So you have to first activate the data source, then replicate. And replication, I showed you two ways, from RSDS or from right click on the source system and replicate. And then you should activate the standard content. Okay. So the process is the same. There is nothing changed. So you click on BW, open a new session. And then what we'll do is we will go to RSA1. By the way, you can also activate the standard content from the web, which is your HTML GUI, which I showed you. So if you go to the cockpit, okay, from the cockpit, also you can jump to SAP GUI for HTML, right? So I told you that we have something called this one, SAP GUI for HTML. So if I click here, you can either go directly to SAP GUI for HTML or you can jump from one of the tiles which does not have a native Fiori editor. That will also open SAP GUI for HTML. And there you will be able to add your transaction codes and activate your standard content. But it is a little bit slow than the backend. So from the backend also, if you want to do, is the same thing, come to RSA1, go to BI content, and then select your data source. Or if you know the composite provider, which is a top composite provider, you can also do that. Like for example, let's take the standard content here. Okay, what do we have? We have, say for example, master data supply chain management. Inside this, I think there is inventory. Okay, so we'll activate, say for example, inventory flow. Okay, once again, it's already activated, but I'll activate it again for you. So for inventory, you have to make sure that the data sources should be replicated, activated and replicated, which is your LIS 03, BX, BF, and UM. There is no change there. The standard data sources are the same. And in the virtual data mart, once that is done, then you will come to, so you should know the name of the composite provider. And how will you know the name of the composite provider? If by the standard content document. So if you go to material, if you go to the topic material, we have BW for HANA BI content. So if you open that, you will get to know, say for example, for inventory, right? You will know the value as this Z, sorry, not Z, V underscore MMIM01. So now you'll go here, you will go by object types, same thing, there is no change in the process of that. Go to composite provider, expand that, click on select objects, and you will find your /IMO/V underscore MMIM01. So you'll find that.
Yeah, Devanshu, sometimes we don't find these things. The search sometimes doesn't show any value. What could be the reason?
There can be two reasons. Reason number one is your BI content is not successfully installed in the system. In that case, you'll have to work with Basis to install it again, the BI content. As you know, we discussed Cont B and Cont. There are two versions for the standard content. So make sure you have both of them successfully installed. If still you are not able to see, then then I think the standard content might not be available in your version. So you have to check your BW for HANA version, what version is there, and is the standard content version, whatever is installed, has that particular object or not.
It can be the same for, let's say, the cloud implementation also.
For cloud implementation, for cloud, you will mostly see the CDS view based data sources. Yeah, it can be the same situation there as well. Either your standard content is not installed successfully, or your version of the cloud and the version of your content in the cloud doesn't have that particular flow yet available.
Yeah, but it can happen in the cloud environment also.
I think so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so here it is saying already active, but say for example, if it's a fresh installation, then the install checkbox will be checked. So this is install. So same thing you will do. So you can check it again. And here you'll have to choose two things very carefully. If you want to install everything which starts from the composite provider and goes down below, then you can say grouping and data flow before. And afterwards also, if you want to activate the queries on top of this composite provider, so you can say data flow before and after. But if you just want to activate the necessary objects and not everything below, then you can select the necessary objects, which is the by default. And then you make sure that your ADSOs, your info area, see everything is already active. That's why you're saying a green checkbox, green box here. Otherwise it won't be. So what I'll say is, I'll just say right click in data flow before. So now we have three different ADSOs. One is for quantities, one is for values. Install all below. Okay. So now one we have for the stocks, quantities, one we have stock values, and then we have for movements separately. So this is your the markers. Okay, the markers will be updated in here, and the movements will be separate ADSOs. That's the new inventory setup and the new inventory ADSOs. Previously, we used to have only one info cube, and then we used to have partitions in those info cubes where the initialization request, which is the marker, sits, and then movement sits, and then the delta movement sits. So we used to have partitions. Now we have separate ADSOs altogether. So inventory, we'll have a separate session. So there I'll explain how the marker concept has changed, how the reference table is used heavily now, so on and so forth. But just understand that from an ADSO point of view, there are three separate ADSOs. One is for quantities, one is for values, and the one is for the material movements. Okay, so now if you have checked all this, then everything will be installed. Info areas will be installed, whatever info areas are there. For the inventory will be installed, and all under the ADSOs you have the entire flow, and then you have the info area under that, info objects, all those things will be installed. Say for example you want that, so you can do either that, or if you don't want to install everything, then manually you have to go and you have to say that do not install anything below, right? This one, do not install any below. So that means it will only install this particular ADSO and it will not install anything below that ADSO. So once you have selected all that, then you just click on this install option. You can simulate the installation or you can actually install. I will just simulate it here. because it's already installed, but it's the same process. You'll just, instead of simulation, you'll just click on installation. And it's basically collecting all the objects. Okay, merge info object. So what happens is, say for example, if info object is already installed, and if you want the content version to merge with your active version, then it will ask you that whether you want to merge this particular info object ABC class. The query execution filter I think is different, only posted value for navigation. That was the field. That is the property of that, and the content version does not have that. If you want to merge that, then yes, you will merge it, and I will just say transfer selections for merging. Yeah, it's giving me for. So let's say transfer all without dialog, because otherwise it will give me one after the other, all info objects, and it will select the property, it will check the property, and it will say that content version is different, your active version is different, do you want to merge them? And I'll say yes, merge all of them. So it's checking all the info objects, it will check the DSOs, info sources, everything, and then it will tell you whether it's green or red. Red means it is not able to activate, there is some problem, it will show you the exact problem, and green means that yes, everything can be installed successfully. So always do a simulation first of the content, and then you can go for actual installation. And it takes time. It might take time based on how many objects you have selected and how many info objects, info sources, everything, the entire flow. How many objects are there in the entire flow? So let it run in the background. Meanwhile, I'll come to this next question. What are the tables to match records with different LO extractors? I tried to fill setup table header, it brought 32 records, but in EKKO, it had 18 records. So you want to know what are the tables to match records with LO extractor. Do you want to know what are the tables behind the extractors? Is that your question?
Yes, Devanshu, like for purchasing, definitely it is EKKO. But do we have any document like for all of these extractors? What are the tables we should match with this extractor, like for sales or like for purchasing inventory, so on and so forth. For all these LO extractors, is there any document like?
No, I don't have any such document which can give you that this extractor is based on 10 tables. It's not possible also, because in the backend, if you see, there is not just one or two tables. They might be referring to 20 different tables and then bringing the record by doing a join between those tables, different types of joins. There might be different lookups happening. So if you want to know exact tables to data source, that's not possible, but main tables, the main tables which we know that yes, these are the application tables, they are, yes, I can tell you that. Again, there is no document as such. I don't have any such document. But like, for example, for sales header, we know it's VBAK as the main table.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
For item, it is
For
VBAP. For purchasing, it is EKKO and EKPO. For header and item. Yeah, those main tables definitely we can get the details, but not all.
Yeah, no, not all. I think only these main tables, and yeah, that is the thing. What I saw, like I tried to extract this purchasing header data, and in EKQ table it had 18 records. Okay, and then when I fill up the setup table, it had 32 records, and I did not have any idea like where it had 32 records. So where the 14 records extra came in. Okay, and then I tried to put that in my this table, the fast table. So
inbound table.
Yeah, inbound table. So there it also came as 32 record. Okay, and then when the staging ADSO was there, so between that inbound table ADSO and this staging ADSO, there was a info source. So when I activated that in staging table, the second level ADSO, in that ADSO I had again 18 records, which actually matched with my EKTO table.
And in your RSA3, did it bring in 32 records?
In
Or 18 records?
RSA3, yeah, 32 records, yeah.
RSA32 records. Okay. Then we'll have to check the flow. See, what happens is there can be after images, before images can be there. There can be debits and credits, like for finance and for sales values and quantity. There can be debits and credits, which might bring multiple records in the base layer. But when you finally aggregate them, it basically gets into a final set of values. That can happen. That can be one of the reasons. And then, of course, we have to check the standard flow of what are the transformations, what is the active table keys based on which the records are, the records are getting aggregated, so on and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is all standard flow, or was it the custom flow?
It is standard flow.
Standard flow. Okay. So in standard flow, then are you using this particular
Suman,
server?
did you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Suman, did you delete the setup table before you load?
Yes, I deleted it. And I also checked it, like if I'm doing wrong, means I did that second time, like I loaded it for 2 times. It loaded with like 64 records. So this kind of stuff was there. Means I was thinking probably something was there, so I deleted it and I checked it like 1 time or 2 times. It just was multiple of 32 records. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to check the flow then.
Okay.
What's happening? Is it in this server, training server, or are you using some
No,
other
it is
training?
in separate server. Maybe I can share my screen, but not today, means not from this laptop. That is another laptop. Yeah, but I can show you that thing.
Okay,
Maybe
so maybe you can send me some screenshots in the email, and then if required, then I can have a call with you to see what's happening.
Okay. Thanks, Devanshu. Yeah. And also, if you could tell me, like, if you could tell us any document, give us any document for these extractors and the main tables, that would be very helpful.
No, I don't have any such document, but I'll have to create the document. I don't have it handy right now, but
No, that's fine.
give me some time. I can create it for the ones I know for sure, and that I can share it with you.
Okay.
Just send me an email, just as a reminder. Just send me an email saying that the document for the main tables and extractors, so that I will not forget. I'll create that for you. I don't have it right now, but I'll create it for you. Okay, so you see here installation mode came up with warnings and success. So that means you can say that yes, they are fine. And this is simulation result. Simulation result means that it is successful. That means there is no problem. The content is fine and you can activate it. So now you can safely click on install. And that will probably ask you for a transport request as well. And you can put in a transport request. Right now, everything will be, I think, this is the simulation, but if you don't put the transport request, then it will go to $TMP as your temporary package. So process wise, it's the same. As you can see, there's no change in business content activation. But yeah, the only one thing is you can activate it from the web also using the SAP GUI for HTML, but that's the only thing about it. Only different thing, that's all.
Okay.
Can we virtualize a CDS view with prompts, that means parameters? CDS view with parameters in BW through ODP data source? No, I don't think so. Because CDS view with parameters are not acceptable with the BW annotations. So BW needs some annotations, which we will see tomorrow. With that, if you put a parameterized CDS view, I think it is not supported at this moment. Maybe in the next releases it will be. But if you want to use an extractor for BW extraction, which is CDS view extractor, it has to be without the parameters, not with parameters. Unless someone has actually used it and made it work, I'm not sure. Feel free to provide your comments here. But when I tried it, what we did was we first created a CDS view with parameters. Parameter was for the key date, and it worked fine in S4HANA, which is fine. But the moment you try to put BW annotations and delta based on that, it says it's not supported. CDS view with parameters are not supported for the BW extraction.
Even not on delta, means just a simple ODP is not taking, and it is just giving different issue every time. Sometimes the data source is getting created and I can save the data source, but it is in M type, M status, not in A status.
Modified.
So, yeah. And when I try to see the data in that data source, it is showing me some error. Let me find that. Means I had that thing. Yeah, it was throwing me access underscore ODP / extract 30. So 13, this kind of error. And
can you post that in the chat window here? Yeah, but as far as my knowledge goes, CDS view with parameters are not supported yet for BW extraction. So if you want to use a CDS view with parameter, what I would recommend is create another CDS view on top of the parameterized CDS view, okay, and pass the value of the parameters in that particular top level CDS view. That top level CDS view should not have any parameters, but it
like a hard-coded,
like hard-coded, or you can use system variables. In CDS view, when you create CDS view, there are system variables and session variables, right? Which will start with $. Which will start with $. You can find it there. All the system variables I have put it here in CDS view. CDS annotations. It is topic material. So under that, yeah, CDS view. This is the PDF for CDS views. In this, just try to search for session variables. Let's see. Yeah, these are the session variables, okay, for the CDS view. For client, you have one. For system date, if you want to pass the system date, like side item of ABAP. Side item of ABAP is equal to $session.system_date in the CDS view syntax. Language, user. So use this to pass the value of the parameter in the main CDS view and use the main CDS view as your source for BW. Just a workaround.
Yeah, but if we have like say company code as my prompt, and I can use like multiple company code, so those kind of thing is not possible.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, what else we have? How can we build a hierarchy data source from CDS view? Yeah, so for hierarchy based CDS view, you have to create 2 or 3 CDS views. One will be dimension, one will be hierarchy. You have to connect the dimension with the hierarchy, and then you can do that. Example, Mara table, we have material and material type. Can we build a small hierarchy with these 2 fields and extract this to BW? See, if you want to create hierarchy CDS views, then just one CV will not do it for you. You have to create 2 CVs. One is a hierarchy, one is a dimension, and you have to connect them with the annotation. That way hierarchy works in CDS views. And then you can use that as a data source for hierarchy in BW. That I have to check. That part where can you use that as a data source for hierarchy, I have to check that, how it works. But within S4, we have done it. Within S4, we have created 2 CVs and we have connected the 2 CVs using the annotations, and we have used it in the analysis for Office for hierarchy. That part I have done.
Okay. Also, in our the question we started from, we need to build that 2 story in 2 Yeah,
SAC.
to dashboard in SSE. So can we include the scenario like some hierarchy so that we can cover this up, a scenario somewhere with this hierarchy thing. Maybe
With
in
the hierarchy CDS views, are you saying?
yeah, in some of the dimension, if we can do that, and so this will be also covered, and we'll be able to know how to create that.
I'll see. If time permits, yes, I will do that. If not, then what I will do is I will create a separate session for people who are interested, who wants to know that how hierarchy based CDS view is created, and if we can use that for an extraction in BW.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can create a separate. It's better to create a separate session, because if I add it in the current course, then it will get extended. Anyways, you know that I'm not able to cover whatever I'm planning in every session. It's going a little bit. I'm lagging behind. So let me do this. Let me create a separate session where I will either invite you all guys, or I will record that particular session, what I'm doing, how I'm doing step by step, and I'll share that recording with you.
Okay, thank you. Sure.
Let me take a note 1 second. So what I'll have to do is CDS view based hierarchy and data source. Okay, I'll create a video, or I will create a separate session. Can we virtualize? This is done. Can we build a hierarchy? How to create a BW query variable on top of a cube type parameterized CDS view? Cube
Means
type
the embedded BW query on CDS view.
Okay, CDS view of type cube, basically. BW query variable. Okay, so scenario is you are using the CDS view in BW with parameters.
Yeah.
Parameterized CDS view, again, as I told you, is not possible. It is not possible for a BW extraction. At least I don't know.
No, Devanshu. It is in embedded BW. It is not. It is the embedded BW in S4 HANA. So how to create that embedded BW query on top of the CDS view?
No, but even in embedded BW, you have to create a data source based on the CDS view.
Yeah, that we can do, right? Means the CDS view, like consumption CDS view, if you run that in RSRT, obviously that has a just underneath cube type CDS view as
No,
it's
but parameterized. Are you able to use parameterized CDS view in embedded BW?
Yeah,
I don't think so. Are you doing it right now? Because whether it's a separate BW or if it's an embedded BW, for usage of CDS view, you have to create a data source. Otherwise, how will you use the CDS view?
No, Devanshu, you can create a Bex query on top of that cube type of CDS view. But the thing is, it asks suppose from date and to date is there as your parameter. So when you try to save that Bex query, it asks that there should be unique variable is required for these two variable.
For the parameterized variable.
Yeah, for the parameterized variable.
Okay. You are saying that the CDS view has generated the transient provider, and the Bex query is based on that transient provider based off CDS view.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So if that is your scenario, then you have to create a special variable, query variable on top of those two parameterized value, right? Now those two the parameters will have a technical name generated in the starting with, I think, 4 or 3, if I'm not wrong.
P underscore whatever the parameter technical name you give in the CDS view.
Correct.
P underscore from or to. Yeah.
Okay, so say for example, you have your value of those two parameters as pxyz1 and pxyz2.
Yeah.
These are your two technical names of the system global. This should be global system technical name for the two parameters in the transient provider. Okay.
Yeah.
Now what you'll have to do is, say for example, this is my embedded BW. I'm assuming. Okay.
Yeah.
Now within embedded BW, when you are creating a query, so what you have to do is on the project itself, not on info area, not on the composite provider, not on the query, on the project itself, click on new and there will be something called a variable. Okay.
Okay.
When you click this variable, it will ask you, you give any name, zxyz1 variable, and in the reference characteristic, give the technical name, system generated technical name of that particular field. And then you choose single value interval, whatever you want to, right? And then you say finish, a variable will be created. A variable which is available globally across your BW project. Once you create this variable, okay, this variable is not connected to any info object prior, because usually what is the way in the query we right click on a info object of field and then we'll say create variable. From there you will not be able to create variable for parameters. For parameters, if you want to create a variable globally on the project, you have to create that variable and provide the reference characteristic name. And then once you do that, then you go back to your query and under that parameter, you will see that a variable will be available. This variable which you will create will be available to you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and you use this variable in that
in the query.
Query.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, got
so
it.
Try that.
Okay, I'll try and get back to you tomorrow.
Sure.
Will that process work for HANA view as well? If I have a HANA view with parameters?
Yes. This process works for any parameters, whether it's a HANA view parameter or it is a CDS view parameter. It should work for both. HANA view based parameter we are going to do hands-on when we will create the composite provider, and there we will use the calculation view. We created calculation view for material, dimension calculation view for material. We are going to use that because it has a parameter, input parameter. We will use that to create a variable and then use that variable in our composite provider. So that is there in our exercise. Hands-on, I'm going to do that. But for CDS view, there is no hands-on for that within the embedded BW. But this process should work for CDS view parameters also.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Next, from Sala, let's see, are the data source enhancements restricted to LO extractor only, or any data source can be enhanced? Example 0 plant maintenance fleet data source. No, it is not restricted to the LO extractors only. Your baddies, which is the RSU5 SAPI baddie, is applicable to all standard extractors, not just LO extractors. So 0 PM fleet or any master data, other master data or transaction data can also be enhanced using the same baddie. So same baddie is applicable. Okay. All right. So we are done with the questions here. Yeah.
Devanshu, I had a related question for the standard BI content. So you went through that process, so we know we can activate them and whatnot. My question was more high level, I guess. So we know that you can activate them for LO extractors. At least we have a defined process there. But if this was any other standard content, I think we have more options. Like you can do virtual tables. If you're doing, you could use SDA to pull in that data. you have, we're going to, I think, CDS views is another option. What is what's the, how does it, how do you decide, I guess, if you're starting with this on what to use or what would be better, or is it just driven by, you know, whatever the architect says is what you do in the development environment?
So if you are starting afresh and you want to decide whether you should go for standard extractors or you should go for CDS views based extractors. So I would recommend that you should identify your requirement for deltas. So if it's delta requirement is there and you are you want the delta types as ABR, right? You don't want after images because CDS view gives only after image. You have to remember that. If you don't want after image, you have a requirement that you have a data mart ADSO as your first layer or a cube-like behavior. Then you cannot go for CDS view based deltas because they will give after images only, not ABR. So if you want to work with ABR after before reverse, then you should go for standard extractors. For LO, logistics cockpit. For FI, where you have after images, there you have a choice. You can either go for CDS views, which I would recommend. Go for CDS views because going forward also all your data sources will gradually migrate to CDS views. So there are standard CDS views, interface and consumption CDS views available for finance. You can just type I_finance or C_finance. You will get all the CDS views there. Use that and then create a data source. We are going to create the data source from a fresh scratch implementation of CDS views tomorrow. So you will know what is that process looks like. So go for CDS views if it's an after image based delta you want. If you don't want after image, you want additive image or you want ABR kind of a behavior, please go for standard extractors, which are well known, well tested, and deltas also work seamless in that. So that is one criteria to choose whether CDS view or your standard extractors. Second is that if you are comfortable writing CDS views for your custom tables, if you have many custom tables and you are comfortable writing CDS views, then go for CDS views. If you're not comfortable with CDS, because CDS views is not graphically friendly, user friendly. You have to write code there. You have to write associations there. You have to know the annotations there. So if you're comfortable with that, go with that. Otherwise, you go for the baddie, the RSU5 baddie, and just add your custom table there, the code from the custom table there, and you can use the standard extractors. So it depends. I would not say that it's a black and white decision. It is basically depending on what kind of requirements your client has. But if you want after image only, you can do away with after image. That means keep your first level as standard ADSO, override, and then you keep as data mart ADSO if you want. Then you can very well use CDS views, and I would encourage you to use CDS views as much as possible.
So performance-wise, which would be a better option? Is it CDS views?
It is CDS views. Why? Because performance-wise, the CDS views are code push down, HANA code push down. So definitely the CDS code is, the CDS syntax is created from ground up to work as much as possible in the database and not do too much data transfer between ABAP and HANA DB. Whereas the standard extractors, the code push down is not yet there, fully there. And they're not investing also there because CDS views are now being rolled out for the extractor. So they're not doing much investment there to revamp the code for code push down. No, that's not happening much. So performance wise, CDS views are better. Also hassle free, I would say CDS view because no setup table concept, no extraction queue concept. So all those additional layers you don't have in CDS view. So there also CDS view fares well.
So say suppose in case of like there is enhancement, right? Like already running before HANA system,
Right.
With enhancement like in FI extractors or FI tables related or sales related or purchasing related. Say suppose we are adding like 2 or 3 additional columns and trying to report out of it. So in that case, if we need to perform a historical data for those columns as well in reporting, so how do we proceed through CDS extractors? Any idea on that?
Yeah, so if you want to, first of all, if you want to extract the data from CDS views, it is extended via an extension CDS view. So if you want to add 3 or 4 fields to an existing CDS view, you will add an extension CDS view, which will add the append structure to the main SQL view, which gets generated out of the CDS view, and your fields will be added. So without touching the existing CDS view, which can be a standard CDS view, you can enhance it using extension CDS view. That is a way to extend. And if you want the historical data for the fields, see, anyways, the CDS view, but then you have to run the CDS view fully there. I think the process is going to be the same, that you have to load full mode, in the full mode from the CDS view into your data DSO for those particular. No, you have to run. The process will not change from the standard extractor in case of the historical load. For historical load, you have to again load it fresh if you want to do the historical data for the enhanced fields. Okay. I mean, there is no special process for CDS view which will enable you to avoid that reinitialization kind of a scenario. No, I don't think so. Even with CDS view, you will have to reload if you want historical data.
And if that criteria is with our BW extractor, say suppose, will we be following our traditional BW process?
Yes, 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 traditional BW process. There's another process for remodeling, which is there for in BW. We have a remodeling. So if you want those additional fields to be populated via the data which is already existing in your BW, that is possible through remodeling without going to source for history. So that is the only possibility where you can avoid loading everything from the source. Or other than that, if your remodeling does not satisfy the requirement, you have to go to source. That remains the same between CDS view and standard extractor.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Devanshu, so the SDA and SLT, what would be the criteria for those compared to these? I guess is it real time one of those, and license?
Real time is one of them. Absolutely. So real time is one of the major criteria for SLT, going for SLT compared to SDA, because SDA alone without the SDI, which has the real time enabled, it doesn't work well with SDA. So real time application, and yeah, you said licensing. So that is another major criteria. SDA does not need any license. SLT definitely needs a license for sure.
So generally, I mean, these are for a senior developer or a developer in the role, right? These decisions are not made by the developers. Is that correct? I mean,
that's right. That's right.
Right.
But the team lead might be asked to prepare a report on which is the feasible one, right? And why we should go for that. Then the team will discuss together where developer will give their inputs and why or why not. And then it will be taken to the top management.
Okay, thanks. So the CDS view has, I know we'll talk about it later, but does it have a real-time capability?
Yes, CDS view has real-time capability via change data capture. So there is something with 1909, with S4HANA 1909, we have something called change data capture, CDC, which works hand in hand with CDS views, meaning your SLT triggers will be created on the tables which you are using in your CDS views. So that way you can have the real-time replication combined with CDS views. So it's there, yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Can you explain me the info objects creation?
Sorry, your voice is not very clear.
Yeah, the info objects creation and its properties. Can you explain me with one example?
Info object creation is the same, that has not changed, but yes, there are some properties which has changed for info objects. So let me show you. I can actually take another session for master data, that is also important, but let me show you an info object. So say for example, we take zero material. Creation is the same. The creation you will do in the info area. So say for example, you have in info area here on the left side, I have my info area. So if I create new, then we have info object here. So you'll create an info object via this option. So that process is the same. So you create here, then you will do the name, you will choose whether it's a characteristic or a key figure or a unit or an XXL. XXL means it is, you can have more than 60 characters as a description, or the length goes to 1333 for the XXL info objects. And XXL info objects, I think, can also be used to store images, if I'm not wrong. I have not personally dealt a great deal with XXL info objects, but XXL info objects are used when the value you want more than 60, the description, and also you want to store images or video files, images, and those things. It supports the non-structured data also. So those are the scenarios where you use XXL info object. But other than that, you will have characteristic, key figure, and unit, which is our common ones. So you will create one. So creation is the same, and I'll show you the properties now. So for the properties, you have the data type, you have the length, 40 output, and all those things are same. Here, there are some additional properties which have been introduced, like enhanced master data update is there, which is a new property, which means that it will behave like an ADSO. So in ADSO, what do you have? In ADSO, you have the active table, you have the change log table, you have the inbound table. If you want same behavior for the info objects also, and that is usually used for high volume. If the volume is high, and if you have parallel sources loading into this info object, say for example, there is one data coming from ECC, there is one data coming from CRM, there is one data from flat file, and all of them are parallel flows to this info object, and they are high volume and they're very frequent. In those cases, to maintain serialization, to enable parallel loading, and to enable the change log kind of a behavior, you can check this enhanced master data update. What it will do is, you right now, if you see the tables, right, the tables for this will be your SID, then your M table, P table, X table, T, H, K, I, these are for hierarchies. In addition to these, there will be some new tables which will get created, which will be for active table, inbound table, so on and so forth. So those ADSO-like tables will get generated for the info object, which is having enhanced master data update.
That means the data is persistent here in info object.
Yeah, data is always persistent in info object. Data will always be loaded in info object. You can have virtual info object. If you want a virtual access, then you have to change the data access type. Like for example, if you want to keep this virtual, you don't want to persist the data in zero material, for example, then you have to change the access type. Right now it is generic access, meaning it will persist the data. But if you want to change it, then you have an option of SAP HANA View, SAP HANA CV also. Meaning the data will not be persisted in the actual actual info object tables. On runtime, the data will be fetched directly from the HANA View. So
where do we specify the HANA View?
First, you have to create the HANA View in your local HANA DB. Right?
Yeah, let's say you created one HANA View, dimension view created, right? Previously. So where do we create that dimension view here?
Where do you provide? So first you will change the read access type to SAP HANA View, and then it will give you the option. Wait, let it come up. And this is usually used for BPC. When you have BPC, your master data sometimes is sourced from, especially in embedded BW, where in S4 HANA you are using the BPC embedded, and there it will, you might see that a lot of info objects are there, which are there virtually. That means HANA View. So once you select the SAP HANA View, then it will ask you that which package you want. So say for example, we had our package, right, which was ZTEP BT2, batch 2 calculation views. So once you select that, then you will see all the calculation view which we created as part of that package, and you can provide that particular calculation view. Okay. But right now it is generic. Mostly you will have generic. Only for virtual info objects, you will have the data access type as HANA CV. Okay, so other properties are the same, usable as info provider.
Sorry, what does that mean, access type? So what does that exactly mean?
Mean you want to persist data, or you want to access the data at runtime.
Oh, okay, that's the only difference.
That's the only difference, yeah.
Okay. So these info objects is used for the master data only?
Yes, master data. BPC.
We will cover these things in future, right?
No, BPC is not covered.
No, not BPC. This info and the master data things.
Yeah, master data. I have a separate session for master data where I will explain all the different properties of what has changed in the master data, and I will explain you that. Yes. Okay.
So what was the other tabs?
Yeah, so we have master data text where you can do the language dependent, time dependent. Then you have the hierarchies, same thing. If you want external hierarchies, which is version dependent, time dependent, this is the same. Entire hierarchy or hierarchy node, all those things are common, which we already had. Then you have the attributes. You can define what are the attributes, navigational versus display attribute. Again, this is nothing different than the previous BW. We have the navigation attribute. We also have something called a transitive attribute, okay, which is a navigation attribute of a navigation attribute.
We can navigate from one object to another object.
No, navigation attribute means in the query, you can slice and dice with these attributes. That means navigation is possible in the query, in the report output. Okay, and then you can also have transitive attributes. So for example, you have maintained transitive attributes. Transitive attribute means you want a navigation attribute of a navigation attribute as a direct navigation attribute of this particular info object, then you can do that. So we have that option also. Then XXL attributes, if you have XXL info objects created, then you can write XXL info objects as your navigation attribute. Then you have your BI clients. BI client means your report. In the report, how do you want to display description, selection, no selection restriction, or if you want selections to be there, filter values, query filter values, and any geo data you have, you can put that. If you have currency conversion, you can have a currency attribute. You can have a unit of measurement ADSO maintained if you want to do unit of measurement via the ADSO, so on and so forth. Read access logging and miscellaneous, all those things. Fixed unit of measurement if you want, constant value if you want. So this is currency and unit of measurement, basically in extended. And then you have the runtime properties, which is basically HANA pushdown. So query, like for example, operations in SAP HANA, You have your defensive versus standard versus offensive. Defensive means it will only push down whatever it comfortably can, and it knows that OLAP engine or the HANA DB can successfully execute. Standard means it will push most of the things, whatever is possible, and not be conservative about it. And offensive means it will try to push everything to HANA, operations in HANA. And then we have query read, cache mode. One second, let me complete this. Then you have query when you navigate or you expand the hierarchies. You want how the read to happen, everything you want at once, or you want to read only during navigation, or when you navigate or expand hierarchies. So how do you read the data? When the data will be actually refreshed and read from the database, there the option is there. Cache mode, database query cache if it's activated. Usage, you want to start the query from the cache, or you want to start from the database, like fresh values every time. Cache validity, intermediate query results, selection structure. So all this is related to your caching and your push down into HANA.
Yeah, this is a standard characteristics, right? Zero material. So can we extend this one? Can we create a G?
Yeah, when I will show you the master data, when the session for master data, I will create a Z one. I'm not going to touch the standard one.
So if it is a this info object is kind of ADSO, then we can skip the ADSOs, right? Creating we can directly access this one in the composite.
Yes, you can, but that will be for master data.
Only for master. Okay.
ADSO is usually for transaction data.
But the thing is, there in info object also we can create the key things, right? Key value.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Yeah, here there is a characteristics and there is a
key figure.
The key figure. So that is as a
ADSO.
Yeah.
No. Okay, so you have to understand the difference between info object and an ADSO. Okay. Info object will be storing only one entity, one business entity, meaning material will be one info object, plant will be one info object, your quantity will be one info object, your value will be another info object. So that info object is only one particular field, one business item. ADSO is a combination of all the business items. So if you want your report, in your report, usually what you have say 20 characteristics and 5 key figures. If you have that, then how will you report on 20 different info objects? You cannot do that, right? So you want an object which consolidates or combines your characteristics and key figures. That is your ADSO. So you will create your report on ADSO or composite provider. And master data reporting, if you want, then if you want one single master data and attributes, if that's good enough for you, then you can create a report on that one master data info object. But if you want to report on master data having multiple info objects, which are not related as a navigation attributes, which are independent info objects, then you create an ADSO for master data reporting and add those info objects and do the reporting there.
So that means for 4 or 5 master data things, 4 or 5 info objects, we can connect it to the ADSO, then
and report on it.
Correct.
But if you have, say for example, requirement of master data reporting on 10 info objects, and there is one info object which has all the 9 as navigation attributes, then you don't need ADSO. You can directly report on that master data info object. You have to make it as an info provider first. So there was a checkbox on zero material. So let me open a new one. So there is a checkbox. Only when you check that box that this particular info object is usable as an info provider, then you can start reporting on it. So this is mandatory. So if you see here, it will say that you cannot enable characteristic as an info provider because the characteristic has no master data. So once you have master data, then you can enable it as info provider. Once you enable as info provider, then you can use it in your reports as a master data reporting.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, but don't worry, I will go into a little bit more detail on all the options when I will discuss the master data.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, guys, any last question?
About the
Devanshu.
I have a question on custom hierarchy. Can it be transportable? I'm not sure on that part.
Yeah, custom hierarchies are all transportable. You're talking about BW hierarchy, right?
Yeah, BW hierarchy, yes,
so you
correct.
created a hierarchy in RSH1, a custom hierarchy, and
yes.
You want to transport that.
Transport to quality or production, yes.
Yeah, I think it should be possible, yes. Why it's not giving an option?
No, I didn't get that. I think we need to create in quality and production by itself.
No, I think they are transportable, the custom hierarchies also.
Okay.
Let's see. So here, say for example, you created a custom hierarchy, Z something, you want to transport that.
Yes.
I think you can, so here, one second. Yeah, but in hierarchies, let's see. Do we have a special type for that?
The hierarchy structure can be transported, but not the hierarchy itself. I don't know if that was the question.
Because I remember that there was a possibility to transport hierarchies, custom hierarchies. I'll have to check how did we do that. Yeah, I'll have to check that.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I don't remember right now, but I think there is a way. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Pramanjan.
No, I was just going to say that it's data, right? So you have to actually extract or upload some other way into the target system itself. Except you could move the info object, which would contain the structure, but I'm not aware of data migration that way. I mean, data migration can happen, but not like through a transport.
Header data. Yeah, somewhere. Okay, I'll have to check. Can we migrate? But I think we can. I might be wrong. Let me check and get back to you.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and Devanshu, I had a question like, suppose for this header data, We have like two source system. So for same S4 HANA, we have created two source system,
Two source
we
systems? No, not two source systems. Two data sources.
No, like if you go to ODP SAP, so this S4 HANA is a source system, right?
Yeah, one source
So
system.
yeah, one source system. Now we create another source system, say S4 HANA 2.
Okay.
Okay, and under that we again replicate these header data.
Your voice went very low.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me properly?
Yeah, now better.
Okay. So under S4 HANA 2, suppose we replicate the header data again, that data source.
And that S4 HANA 2 is pointing to what? Is it the same system?
Same system.
Same system, okay.
So again we replicated that data source, header data there.
Okay.
Then if we connect that to our this inbound table ADSO, the fast level. So this memory data, so ADSO or the fast layer.
Staging ADSO, yeah.
Staging ADSO, yeah, exactly. So then, do we have a separate subscription entry for that in the ODQ mount table, or it will use the same subscription for S4 HANA?
It will. So your DTP is different?
Yes, DTP is different.
Different subscription.
Okay.
If the DTP is different and you are trying to load it from the same system, then it will be a different subscription, because as I told you, the subscription will be dependent on two things. One is the subscriber system, which in our case is the same system, B4H 100, client 100, and the technical ID of the particular object. In our case, it is DTP. In boards, it can be a board's job name, so on and so forth. So it will be a different subscription. Yes.
Okay, because why I'm asking you the question, like in our project, there is a scenario that there is some sensitive customer data.
Yeah.
So that's why the sensitive customer data, we have a separate S4 HANA system, maybe that is satellite. And then there is another S4 HANA system for non-sensitive customer data. So that is the main core S4 HANA system.
So these two are different S4 HANA systems or same S4 HANA system?
Different S4 HANA system. So two production system.
Okay.
And we have the BW system installed for the central system, central S4 HANA system. Okay, means the locations are different. Okay, and now the thing is, in our development we have a single system, but then like all the CDS development and everything, that will be migrated from development to quality, and from quality it will go to two production S4 system, one for sensitive customer, one for non-sensitive customer. Okay, but for BW, we need to make two source system. Then
yes, absolutely.
In development we have to give like same S4 system for twice. So then we can migrate like this thing from say source system 1 to my central sensitive customer, and source system 2 to non-sensitive customer.
The flow, you mean BW flow?
The flow.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and for that, what is recommended?
In that case, there is no problem at all, because in that case the systems are different. So your ODQ mon will be in a different system.
Yeah, in production it will be different. Yeah.
In different systems, right? So even if you are using, say, for example, source system 1, source system 2, then definitely subscription cannot overlap, subscription will be different. But even if it is the same HANA system, same S4
Yeah.
HANA system, but two different DTPs will create two different subscriptions.
Okay, okay. And what should be good to design the BW system? Like, should we go with a single staging ADSO with these two DTP, and then the next layer ADSO and the info source will be single, or do you recommend that will be multiple? So
I would recommend keep the staging layer different. Staging layer ADSOs, you keep it as separate, because what happens is if you want to rebuild the data, right? Say for example, you want to rebuild from the satellite S4 and not the main S4, then you have the flexibility of rebuilding easily without going to request by request by request selection, which is going to make things very complex for you, because then multiple requests will sit in the same ADSO, right?
Yes.
So inbound layer, which is your staging ADSO layer, keep them as separate, source to source, 1:1.
1:1 corporate memory, that ADSO.
That ADSO, correct. And when you move to your integrated data warehousing layer, ADSOs, there you can combine the two into one if you want.
And if there is info source between these two ADSO, then also that will be single one, right? Or that will be two.
Info source between
staging ADSO and integrated ADSO.
Two info sources. So see, the flow will be like this. You will have source system 1.
Are you showing means anywhere?
Let me draw. Yeah, let me draw. That's better. So you will have this. So we will have our models. Okay. So this is my source system 1 and this is my source system 2. And then you have your ADSO. ADSO 1, which is staging layer ADSO, and then your ADSO 2. Okay.
Yeah.
There will be no info source in between this. You can create an info source, but yeah, this is 1:1, absolute 1:1.
Yeah. I'm just thinking that purchasing header.
Okay. So now what you will have is two info sources. So now I will actually this only I'll make it short. So you'll have your two info sources here. Okay, this is IS, this is IS, and then you will have your ADSO, which will be your
integrated ADSO.
Integrated data warehousing layer. Correct.
Yeah.
And these are your staging layer.
Yeah.
And so there will be one transformation from here, one transformation from here, one to this info source, one to this info source, and finally to this one.
Okay.
So this can be your flow, or you can also keep this separate and this separate, and then finally combine in your data mart ADSO. So if you have a requirement where the key figure should be summed up, then you can keep data mart ADSO also as your
but that will be different than the standard flow of purchasing. Means there is no data mart ADSO.
That's right. So standard flow of purchasing will have one, I think, ADSO for staging layer and one ADSO for integrated then IDW layer, and finally a composite provider, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I would rather keep it because there should be unnecessary redundancy of data. If you don't want this, then it's better to keep one single ADSO.
Yeah.
But please
Okay.
don't merge this. This will be a big problem for you if you want
Yeah.
to rebuild in future.
Yeah. Got it. Thanks. Thanks,
Devanshu, does
Devanshu.
it have to go through info source here?
Yeah, you can.
Does it have to? I mean, what's the use of the info source in this?
It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be there. But usually we keep info source in between, because what happens is the flow is usually from here to here and from here to directly here. The standard LSL++ flow is not this to this to this is not there as a regular flow. This to this, and then SS1 to ADS or IDW will be there. There you will actually use the info source. So let me draw it. It will be better. So one flow will be directly from here to here via info source, and one flow will be from
Devanshu, the point here is you don't need two info sources here. One info source, if you have a business logic on top of info source, and then you extend that logic to ADSO IDW.
Yeah, one transformation. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that also is possible. But if you want a different logic from this guy to this guy and a different logic from this guy to this guy, then you should keep two separate info sources. But if your logic is different only in this part and this part is common, then you can create one info source. Yeah, in fact, one also will do, because what you can do is you can keep all the logic from this part in this transformation, SS1 to ISSS1 and SS2 to ISSS2, all the specific transformation which are specific to this ADSO here, and then one transformation, that means one business logic from info source to ADSO. Yes, I think that is a better design. You're right. But you can also keep two info sources, that's fine, or you can keep one, which is also fine. It depends.
But staging ADSO will staging ADSO will not be used in our day-to-day life.
No. No, staging ADSO will be used in day-to-day operation only till this point. That's all.
Yeah.
Not from this to this, not in your daily operation. This to this will be used only for exception scenarios where you have to rebuild your data.
Exactly. So that's why there will not be any different rule like from source to this staging ADSO.
No, I'm saying from not staging. I should not say staging. From the data source, if it is a different rule, till your info source for source 1 and for source 2, if it's a different rule, till your info source, they can be different. And one rule from the info source to your integrated data warehousing layer, that is possible. I mean, that is a better design. Keep one rule from info source to the ADSO and separate rules from source to info source, source 1 and source 2, two different, and one till the final ADSO. That's also good. That's also a good design. That's probably a better design. Because LSA++ also does the same thing. It does not go from this to this as a daily, from this to this as a daily using the info source in between. That's what the LSA++ is also there.
So the standard content is basically like this, is where you have a staging DSO that doesn't get touched, and there is a obviously the data mart DSO or IDW DSO, I guess. That's directly connected to source.
That's directly connected to source, exactly. LSA++ is like this. It's directly connected, but there will be a transformation between your staging and your IDW. There will be a transformation, but that DTP will not be there in the daily process chain. That DTP you will use only when there is a problem in your data here and you have to rebuild. Then you will do a selective deletion from here, and then you will use a DTP to rebuild everything from your staging, and you don't have to go to the source. So that means you are saving that effort to go to source and then again do the setup table, all those things. Everything is available 1:1 in your staging area. So that's the purpose primarily.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So I think we'll stop here. And if you have further questions, put your question in the folder. We'll try to answer them in our pre and post. And tomorrow we will continue with the CDS view creation, and we'll see how it is used as a data source in BW. Okay. Thank you very much. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.